I walked into my manager's office, thinking I was getting a promotion. Instead, I got fired. My 2-month-old daughter. Riley was at home with a babysitter I could barely afford. My husband Mike was supposedly at work, and my boss, Christina Rodriguez, was sitting behind her desk with a smile that made my stomach drop. That was 4 years ago in Chicago, and girl, I had no idea that moment would be both my breaking point and my breakthrough. My name is Layla Patterson, and right now I'm living a life I couldn't have imagined in my darkest moments. I'm sitting in my penthouse in downtown Chicago. My fashion empire just hit 8 figures in revenue. My husband Zach is one of the most sought-after designers in the world, and my daughter Riley wants for absolutely nothing. But to get here, baby, I had to lose everything first. And this is how it happened. That morning, I dressed carefully for work like I always did. Even as a sales associate at Luxe Boutique on Michigan Avenue, I took pride in my appearance. At 30 years old, I'd been working retail for 8 years, always on my feet, always smiling at customers, always hoping that one day I'd move up to management. Christina had hinted at a promotion for months, so when she called me into her office, I thought my moment had finally come. "Layla, have a seat," Christina said, and something in her tone made my heart race. She wasn't looking at me the way she usually did. There was something cold there, something almost satisfied in her expression. "I'm going to be direct with you. We're letting you go." The words hit me like a punch.
What? Why?
"Christina, my sales numbers are the highest in the store. I've been here for 3 years without a single complaint. Your performance has been declining," she said, which was a straight-up lie, and we both knew it. "Since you had the baby, you've been distracted. We need someone more focused." What would you do if you were faced with these words? Would you shout and react, or would you keep it to yourself and remain silent? Tell us in the comments. If you like my story, you can support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I felt tears burning in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. That's not fair. I've never missed a shift. I've worked through lunch breaks. I've stayed late whenever you needed me. Christina leaned back in her chair, and that's when I saw it. The tiniest smirk, like she was enjoying this. "The decision is final. Security will escort you out. You have 15 minutes to collect your things." I walked out of that office in a daze. Escorted out like a criminal, past my coworkers who wouldn't meet my eyes, carrying a cardboard box with my few personal items. The Chicago wind hit me like a slap when I stepped outside, and I just stood there on Michigan Avenue, watching people rush past me, wondering how everything had fallen apart so fast. But the real devastation was waiting for me at home. I needed to tell Mike that I'd lost my job, that we'd be surviving on just his income as a construction supervisor until I found something else. We were already struggling with daycare costs and bills piling up. This was going to hurt, but we'd figure it out together. That's what I thought, anyway. I got home earlier than usual, around 2 p.m. Mike's truck was in the driveway, which was strange because he should have been at a job site. I paid the babysitter, held Riley close, and went inside, calling out for him. No answer. I walked toward our bedroom, and that's when I heard it. Voices. Laughter. A woman's voice that made my blood run cold because I recognized it. I opened that bedroom door, and my whole world shattered. Mike. And Christina. In my bed. In the bed where I'd given birth to dreams of our future, where I'd nursed my baby girl in the middle of the night, where I'd believed I was building a life with someone who loved me. They both froze when they saw me. Mike's face went pale. But Christina? Girl, she had the nerve to look annoyed like I was interrupting something she was entitled to. Like I was the problem. "Layla," Mike started, but I held up my hand. Riley was in my arms, and I couldn't let her feel my body shaking. Couldn't let my baby girl absorb the rage and pain exploding in my chest. "How long?" My voice came out steady, cold, nothing like the screaming I wanted to do. Mike couldn't even answer. He just sat there, naked under my sheets, looking at the floor like a coward. It was Christina who spoke, pulling on her clothes with zero shame. Does it matter? She said. Mike and I have something real. You and him? That was over a long time ago. The audacity of this woman. She just fired me hours ago, and now she was in my house, in my bed, with my husband, telling me my marriage was over like she had any right. I wanted to scream, to rage, to throw things. But Riley started, crying, sensing my distress, and that's what saved me from doing something I'd regret. Get out, I said quietly. Both of you, get out of my house right now. Layla, let me explain. Mike tried again, but I cut him off. You have 30 minutes to get your things and leave. If you're here when I come back, I'm calling the police. I walked out with Riley, got in my car, and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove through Chicago with tears streaming down my face while my baby girl cried in the back seat. I'd lost my job and my marriage in the same day. I had a 2-month-old daughter, no income, and no idea how I was going to survive. I ended up at my best friend Shanice's apartment in Bronzeville. When she opened the door and saw my face, she didn't ask questions. She just took Riley from my arms, pulled me inside, and let me fall apart. I cried for hours. Deep, ugly. Crying that came from somewhere I didn't know existed. Shanice held me and let me break, and when I finally had no tears left, she said something I'll never forget. Girl, you're going to survive this. I don't know how yet, but you're going to come back from this stronger than you've ever been. I've known you since high school, and I've seen you overcome every single thing life threw at you. This won't be any different. I wanted to believe her, but in that moment, I couldn't see how. I was 30 years old with a 2-month-old baby, no job, no husband, no income, and no plan. Mike had been the primary earner. I'd been contributing, but we'd lived paycheck to paycheck even with both incomes.
Now?
I had nothing. Shanice let Riley and me stay with her that first night. I couldn't go back to that apartment, couldn't face the place where my life had imploded. Mike texted me 50 times, called 100 more. I blocked him. Christina had the nerve to text me too, something about how I should be mature about the situation. I blocked her too. I didn't have the energy for their excuses or their drama. I needed to figure out how to survive. If you were in my shoes, what path would you follow, and how would you survive? Share your own advice in the comments. For more stories, you can like the video and subscribe to the channel. The next morning, reality hit hard. I had exactly $1,200 in my personal bank account. The joint account Mike and I shared had been cleaned out, probably by him after I left. I had no job prospects, a baby who needed formula and diapers, and friends who were willing to help but had their own struggles. Shanice was a teacher making $42,000 a year. She couldn't support all three of us long-term. I spent that first week in survival mode. Applied to every retail job I could find online. Reached out to old contacts. Swallowed my pride and filed for emergency food assistance. Looked into daycare subsidies and welfare programs. Every single thing I'd been too proud to consider before became necessary. And through it all, I took care of Riley, feeding her, changing her, rocking her to sleep while I wondered how I'd ended up here. The worst part was the shame. I felt like such a failure. At 30 years old, I should have had my life together. Instead, I was sleeping on my friend's couch with my infant daughter, applying for government assistance, and trying to figure out how to afford diapers. Every time someone from my past life saw me, I could feel their pity. The girl who'd been so confident, so put together, so sure she was building something solid, now completely shattered. Mike finally showed up at Shanice's apartment 2 weeks after everything fell apart. She wouldn't let him in, made him talk to me through the door. He said he was sorry, that it was a mistake, that he wanted his family back. But girl, I could hear the insincerity in his voice. He wasn't sorry he did it. He was sorry he got caught. There's a difference. Where were you planning to go? I asked through that closed door. When you were with her, where did you think this was heading? Silence. Then, I don't know. I wasn't thinking. That's the problem, Mike. You never think. You just do whatever feels good in the moment. Well, you made your
choice.
Now live with it. What about Riley? She needs her father. That made me laugh. A bitter sound with no humor in it. Riley needs a father who shows up.
Who provides?
Who doesn't? Destroy his family for someone who doesn't even respect him. You want to be in her life? You can start by paying child support. Get a lawyer, we'll work out custody, but we are done. You and me? That's over. I heard him leave, heard his footsteps getting quieter, and I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't relief exactly, more like acceptance. This was my reality now. I was a single mother with no job and no prospects.
I could either stay stuck in
that victim mentality, or I could figure out a way forward. And baby, I chose to move forward. That same week, I was sorting through my things, the few belongings I'd grabbed from the apartment, when I found a notebook. I'd been sketching outfit ideas in it for years, combinations I'd put together for customers at the boutique, styles I loved but could never afford. Fashion had always been my passion, something I understood instinctively. I could look at someone and know exactly what would make them feel confident, what colors worked with their skin tone, what cuts would flatter their body type. An idea started forming. A crazy, impossible idea, but it wouldn't leave me alone. What if I didn't go back to retail?
What?
If I took everything I knew about fashion, about styling, about making women feel beautiful, and I built something of my own? I had no money, no business experience, no connections. But I had a phone with a camera, I had an eye for style, and I had absolutely nothing left to lose. Shanice came home that evening to find me frantically researching how to start an online boutique with no money.
She
looked at my laptop screen, at my notebook full of sketches, and then at me. You're serious about this? I don't have any other choice, I told her. Nobody's going to hire me right now. I've applied to 30 jobs and gotten 0 callbacks. Maybe Christina blacklisted me in the industry. Maybe I'm just unlucky, but either way, I need to create my own opportunity. And the only thing I'm actually good at is fashion. Okay, Shanice said, sitting down next to me. Then let's figure this out. That's how it started. Not with a business plan or startup capital or any of the things you're supposed to have. It started with me, a laptop, and a decision that I wasn't going to let Christina and Mike's betrayal define the rest of my life. I was going to build something they could never touch, something that was completely mine. I just had no idea yet how big it would become. Starting a fashion business with no money sounds impossible, and honestly, it almost was. But desperation makes you creative. I spent every night after Riley went to sleep researching, planning, learning everything I could about online selling, social media marketing, and building a brand from nothing. I watched YouTube tutorials until my eyes burned, read every free article I could find, and joined Facebook groups for small business owners. If information was free, I consumed it. My first move was hitting up thrift stores across Chicago. I'd take Riley in her stroller and spend hours going through racks, looking for quality pieces that just needed the right styling. I had about $300 I could spare after budgeting for Riley's needs, and I used every penny wisely. I'd find designer pieces for $5, $10, $15 that would sell for 10 times that if styled right. A vintage blazer, a classic pair of jeans, a silk blouse with good bones. Things that were timeless but needed the right eye to see their potential. Then came the hard part, creating content. I didn't have models, didn't have a fancy camera, didn't have a studio. What I had was my phone, natural light from Shanice's living room window, and myself. At 30 years old, I'd just had a baby 2 months ago, and my body wasn't what it used to be. But I made a choice. I was going to show real women that style isn't about being perfect. It's about confidence. I called my Instagram page Styled by Layla and started posting me in those thrift store finds, showing how to mix high and low pieces, how to dress for your body type, how to look expensive on a budget. My first post got 23 likes, mostly from people I knew. My second got 15. My third got 8. Girl, I was failing. publicly, and it hurt. But I kept going, because what else was I going to do? Go back to begging for retail jobs that didn't want me? The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. I posted a video showing how to transform a $10 thrift store dress into 3 completely different looks. It was raw, unedited, just me talking to the camera like I was talking to a friend. Listen, I know money's tight. I know you're working hard and trying to look good on a budget. I see you, sis. Let me show you how to make this work. That video hit different. It resonated with women who were exactly where I'd been, trying to look professional, trying to feel beautiful, but working with limited resources. Within a week, it had 5,000 views, then 10,000, then 50,000. My follower count jumped from 200 to 5,000 overnight. Comments poured in from women thanking me, asking for advice, wanting to know where I found my pieces. That's when I realized there was a market for this. Not just styling advice, but actual affordable fashion curated for real women with real budgets. Women who worked hard, who had responsibilities, who deserved to feel beautiful but couldn't drop $300 on a single piece. That was my lane, and I was going to own it. I started small, buying pieces from thrift stores and reselling them styled on my Instagram with direct messages. For purchases. No fancy website, no business license yet, just pure hustle. I'd photograph an outfit, post it with styling tips, and women would DM me wanting to buy. I'd package items in whatever I could find, write personal thank you notes, and ship from the post office with Riley strapped to my chest in a baby carrier. The money started coming in. Not a lot at first, maybe $200 the first week, but it was something. It was mine. Money I'd earned with my own vision, my own work, my own brand. I reinvested everything, buying more inventory, slowly building up my stock. Shanice's living room became my warehouse, her dining table my photography studio, her couch my office. She never complained, just kept cheering me on, watching Riley when I needed to shoot content or run to the post office. 3 months in, I was making about $2,000 a month. Enough to contribute to Shanice's rent, to buy my own groceries, to feel like less of a burden. But more importantly, I was building something. Every sale felt like vindication, like proof that Christina and Mike hadn't destroyed me. I was rising from those ashes. They'd left me in, and baby, it felt good. Are there people who do not help you like this? Appreciate these people, and do not hide your love for farming. You can like and subscribe to the video for more. Then Instagram changed its algorithm, and my reach exploded. Videos showing budget styling, thrift store hauls, outfit transformations, they were getting hundreds of thousands of views. My follower count hit 50,000, then 100,000. Brands started reaching out, wanting to send me products to feature. Small brands at first, but it was validation that what I was building mattered. That's when I made my next big move. I launched a website, used a free trial on Shopify, taught myself how to set everything up, and officially became an online boutique. Layla's Closet was born. I kept the prices low, the quality high, and the message consistent. Every woman deserves to feel beautiful, regardless of her budget. The response was overwhelming. Within the first month, I did $15,000 in sales. The second month, $30,000. I was working 18-hour days, managing inventory, creating content, packing orders, responding to customers, taking care of Riley, barely sleeping. Shanice would find me passed out on the couch at 3 a.m. with my laptop still open, Riley sleeping on my chest, surrounded by packages ready to ship. "Girl, you're going to kill yourself," she'd say, but she knew I couldn't stop. This business was my lifeline, my proof that I could survive, my promise to Riley that we'd be okay. 6 months after starting, I hired my first employee, a young woman named Teresa, who'd been following my journey online and reached out asking if I needed help. She was a single mom too, 23 years old, struggling just like I had been. I paid her what I could, which wasn't much, but it was fair and it was honest. Having help meant I could scale faster, create more content, serve more customers. The business kept growing. I moved out of Shanice's apartment into a small two-bedroom in South Loop. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Riley had her own room with actual furniture, not just a bassinet in the corner.
I
Could walk to the post office, had space for inventory, could breathe without feeling like I was imposing on someone's generosity. That move felt like graduating from rock bottom to solid ground. By the end of my first year, Layla's Closet had done $500,000 in sales.
$500,000.
From nothing. From a broken woman on a couch with a 2-month-old baby and $300 to her name. I hired 3 more employees, moved my inventory to a small warehouse space, and finally felt like I could breathe without anxiety crushing my chest. But the universe had bigger plans for me. I just didn't know it yet. I was at a small business networking event in downtown Chicago, one of those things where entrepreneurs gather to make connections and share advice. I almost didn't go because leaving Riley with a babysitter still made me anxious, but Shanice convinced me I needed to start building professional relationships. You can't grow if you're always alone, she said, and she was right. The event was at a bougie hotel, the kind I used to walk past and dream about staying in. I felt out of place in my styled but budget outfit, surrounded by people in designer everything. But I held my head high, introduced myself to other business owners, and tried to make the most of it. That's when I saw him. Zach Morrison. If you know fashion, you know that name. One of the most influential Black designers in the world, known for dressing celebrities, showing at Fashion Week, building an empire that celebrated Black excellence in every stitch. And he was standing 10 feet away from me, talking to a group of people who hung on his every word. I didn't approach him. What would I say? Hi, I sell thrift store clothes on Instagram.
But fate, or God, or
whatever you want to call it, had other plans. I was looking at my phone, checking on Riley through the nanny cam app when someone bumped into me and I dropped it. Before I could pick it up, a hand reached down and grabbed it for me. Careful, a deep voice said. Can't run a business without your phone these days. I looked up and girl, it was him. Zach Morrison. Up close, he was even more striking.
tall, well-dressed.
Obviously, with kind eyes and a smile that made me forget how to speak for a second. Thank you, I managed to say, taking my phone back. You looked stressed. Everything okay? He asked, and the genuine concern in his voice surprised me. Just checking on my daughter. First time leaving her with a new babysitter. You know how it is. I don't know why I said that last part. He probably didn't know how it was. But his smile widened. I do, actually. My sister has 3 kids. I've seen her check that nanny cam 100 times at events. Being a mom is the hardest job there is. We talked for 20 minutes. He asked about my business, really listened when I explained my vision of making fashion accessible to working women. I showed him my Instagram, expecting him to be polite but disinterested. Instead, his eyes lit up. This is incredible, he said, scrolling through my content. The way you style these pieces, the message you're sending, this is what fashion should be about. Not just for the wealthy, but for everyone. That's exactly what I'm trying to do, I said, feeling seen in a way I hadn't expected. I want women like me, women who work hard and deserve to feel beautiful, to have access to style that doesn't break the bank. Zach looked at me with an intensity that made my heart race. Would you be interested in collaborating?
I've
been wanting to do a more accessible line, something that reaches real women, but I haven't found the right partner. Someone who understands the market from the inside. Someone like you. I thought he was being polite, making conversation. But 2 days later, his team reached out. They wanted to meet to discuss a potential collaboration between his brand and mine. Girl, I almost passed out when I got that email. Zach Morrison, fashion icon, wanted to work with me? Layla Patterson, the girl who'd been fired and betrayed and left with nothing? The meeting happened at his Chicago showroom, a stunning space in the West Loop that looked like something out of a magazine. His team was professional, warm, and incredibly serious about the collaboration.
They'd
done their research, knew my numbers, understood my audience. Zach believed there was a gap in the market for affordable luxury, fashion that looked expensive but was accessible. He wanted to design a line, and he wanted me to be the face of it, to use my platform and my understanding of real women to make it successful. Why me? I asked, still not quite believing this was real. You could partner with anyone. Zach leaned forward, his expression serious. Because you're authentic. You've lived the struggle. You understand what it means to want to look good, but have to choose between that and paying bills. Most people in this industry don't get that. They've never had to, but you do. And that authenticity, that's what women respond
to.
That's what makes your brand powerful. We launched the collaboration 6 months later. The Morrison x Layla collection. Affordable pieces designed by Zach, styled and marketed by me, sold through both our platforms. The response was insane.
We sold out in
48 hours. Had to do 3 restocks in the first month. The press coverage was overwhelming. Forbes, Vogue, Essence. Everyone wanted to talk about the unlikely partnership between a high-fashion designer and a bootstrapped entrepreneur who'd started on Instagram. But something else was growing alongside the business success. Zach and I had been spending a lot of time together, planning meetings that turned into long dinners, strategy sessions that became conversations about life, about our dreams, about everything we'd overcome to get here. He told me about growing up poor in Detroit, about being told he'd never make it in fashion, about proving everyone wrong through sheer determination. I told him about Mike, about Christina, about being left with nothing and building everything from that nothing. You're remarkable, Layla, he said one evening after a particularly long workday. We were in his office, surrounded by fabric samples and design sketches, and Riley was asleep in her carrier. Not just because of what you've built, but because of who you are. Your strength, your vision, the way you turned pain into power. That's rare. I felt something shift between us in that moment. Something that scared me, because I'd sworn off relationships. Sworn I'd never trust anyone with my heart again. But Zach was a Mike. He saw me, really saw me, and celebrated my success instead of feeling threatened by it. Falling in love again wasn't something I planned. After Mike, I'd built walls around my heart, so thick I didn't think anyone could break through. But Zach was patient. He didn't rush me, didn't pressure me, just showed up. Consistently with respect, kindness, and genuine care for both me and Riley. He'd bring coffee to our planning meetings, remember Riley's favorite toys, ask about my day like he really wanted to know. Slowly, those walls started crumbling. Our first official date was 6 months after we started collaborating. He took me to a rooftop restaurant overlooking Chicago, the city lights twinkling below us like stars. I'd left Riley with Shanice, who practically pushed me out the door saying, "Girl, go live your life. Riley's fine. You deserve this." I need to be honest with you, I told Zach over dinner, my hands shaking slightly. I'm terrified. The last man I trusted destroyed me, left me with a baby and nothing else. I don't know if I can go through that again. Zach reached across the table and took my hand. I understand. And I'm not asking you to rush into anything. But Layla, I see you. Not just the businesswoman, not just the influencer, but you. The woman who fights for everything she has, who loves her daughter fiercely, who refuses to let anyone dim her light. I want to be part of your life, but only if you want that too. No pressure. Just possibility. What would you do if you were faced with these words? Would you believe him and open your heart to him, or would you be cautious and cut off contact with him? Share your opinion in the comments and support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. We are stronger together. Something about the way he said it, the sincerity in his eyes, made me take a chance. We started dating. Officially, keeping it private at first because I didn't want media attention complicating things. Zach was famous in the fashion world, and I was becoming known too. The last thing I needed was tabloid speculation when I was still figuring out if I could trust love again. But being with Zach felt different than anything I'd experienced before. He celebrated my wins instead of
feeling threatened by them.
When the Morrison x Layla collection hit $1 million in sales, he threw me a surprise party. When I landed a feature in Vowed, he was the first person to congratulate me. When Riley called him Uncle Zach for the first time, I saw tears in his eyes. This man wasn't trying to compete with me or
control me.
He was trying to build something with me. The business exploded in ways I couldn't have imagined. The collaboration was so successful that major retailers wanted to carry our line. Target approached us about an exclusive collection. Nordstrom wanted in.
We
were suddenly playing in spaces I'd only dreamed about. I hired a full team: designers, marketers, operations managers, customer service reps. Layla's Closet went from a one-woman show to a company with 35 employees. The money was flowing now. Real money. I moved Riley and myself into a beautiful brownstone in Lincoln Park, the kind of home I used to walk past and think was only for other people. Riley had a playroom bigger than our first apartment. I had a home office where I could run my empire. We had stability, security, peace. Every morning I'd wake up and have to remind myself this was real, that I'd actually built this life from nothing to. My accountant called me 18 months after launching the collaboration with Zach. "Layla, I need you to sit down for this conversation," he said, and my heart dropped, thinking something was wrong. "Your net worth just crossed 7 figures. Between your equity in the business, your investments, and your liquid assets, you're officially a millionaire." I sat in my office, phone in hand, and cried. Not sad tears, but tears of disbelief and gratitude.
For years ago, I'd
been fired and betrayed, living on a friend's couch with $47 to my name. Now I was a millionaire. A self-made millionaire who'd built an empire from thrift store clothes and Instagram posts. The girl they'd thrown away had become the woman they couldn't touch. Zach proposed on Riley's 3rd birthday. We'd thrown her a princess party in our backyard, and after all the guests left after Riley was asleep, he got down on one knee in our kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd planned business strategies and rocked my baby girl when she was teething, where I'd cried tears of frustration and joy, where I'd built a life I was proud of. "Layla Patterson," he said, holding a ring that sparkled under the kitchen lights, "you're the strongest woman I've ever met. You've shown me what it means to turn pain into purpose, to rise from ashes, to build an empire. With nothing but vision and determination. I want to spend my life supporting your dreams, loving your daughter like she's my own, and building something beautiful together. Will you marry me?" I said yes through happy tears. Yes to love, yes to partnership, yes to believing that good men exist and I
deserved one.
Yes to showing Riley that her mother could have everything: success, love, happiness, peace. Yes to proving that the story doesn't end with betrayal. Sometimes, it's just the beginning of something better. We got married 6 months later in a private ceremony at a vineyard in Napa Valley. Small and intimate, just close friends and family. Riley was our flower girl, wearing a custom dress Zach designed just for her. Shanice was my maid of honor, crying through the entire ceremony because she'd been there from the beginning, had seen me at my lowest, and now got to witness my highest. It was perfect. But life has a way of bringing your past back around right when you're at your peak. 2 weeks after our wedding, I was at a charity event for women entrepreneurs. I'd started a foundation that helped single mothers start businesses, giving grants and mentorship to women who were where I'd been. It was my way of paying forward all the blessings I'd received. I was networking, talking to potential grant recipients when I saw him, Mike, standing near the buffet table, looking rough around the edges in a way that shocked me. He'd lost weight, had dark circles under his eyes, and his clothes hung loose on his frame. He looked like life had chewed him up and spit him out. For a second, I considered leaving before he saw me. But then he turned, our eyes met, and there was no escaping the confrontation. He walked over slowly, and I steeled myself for whatever was coming. Layla, he said, his voice rough. You look amazing. I've been following your success. Congratulations on everything. Thank you, I replied coolly, not offering anything more. Can we talk? Just for a minute. He looked desperate, and against my better judgment, I agreed.
We stepped
outside to the venue's terrace, away from the crowd. I'm in trouble, he said without preamble. Lost my job 8 months ago. Can't find work anywhere.
Christina.
And that fell apart after 6 months. Turns out she was seeing 3 different guys from her store, including
me.
I was just another one of her games. I felt nothing hearing this. No satisfaction, no sympathy, just emptiness where he used to matter. Why are you telling me this? Because I need help. I'm about to be evicted. I've got nothing, Layla. And I know I don't deserve anything from you after what I did, but I'm desperate.
Can you help me?
A loan? Maybe a job with your company? Anything. The audacity of this man. He destroyed our marriage, abandoned our daughter, and now he wanted me to save him from the consequences of his choices? I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. Mike, I'm going to be real with you. What you did to me nearly destroyed me. You left me with a 2-month-old baby, no job, no money, and no support. I had to build everything from nothing while you were off living your life. You never paid child support, never checked on Riley, never took responsibility for anything.
And
now you want my help. I know I messed up. You didn't mess up, I interrupted. You made choices. Deliberate choices. And those choices have consequences. I'm not going to bail you out. Not because I'm bitter, but because you need to face what you created. You need to figure out your own way forward, just like I had to. That's called accountability. So, you're just going to let me end up on the streets? His voice turned angry now, defensive. You're not my responsibility, Mike. You stopped being my responsibility when you chose someone else over your family. But I'll tell you what I'll do. My foundation helps people who are struggling, who want to rebuild their lives. If you're serious about turning things around, I can connect you with resources, job training, programs, counseling, support services. But that's where it ends. I'm not writing you a check. I'm not giving you
a job.
I'm offering you the same thing I offer everyone else, a chance to do the work. Mike stared at me like I was a stranger, and maybe I was. The Layla he'd known, the one he'd walked all over. She didn't exist anymore. I'd become someone he couldn't manipulate or guilt-trip, someone who'd learned to set boundaries and protect her peace. Riley asks about you sometimes, I said before he could respond. She doesn't really remember you, but she knows she has a biological father somewhere. If you get yourself together, if you do the real work of becoming a better person, maybe we can talk about supervised visits. But that's a long way off, and it depends entirely on you proving you've changed. Not with words, but with actions over time. I walked back inside before he could respond, my hands shaking but my spine straight.
Zach found me a few
minutes later, took one look at my face, and pulled me into his arms. You okay? He asked softly. I am, I said, and realized I meant it. I really am. Mike wasn't the only ghost from my past that resurfaced. A month later, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Layla? It's Christina. I almost hung up immediately, but curiosity kept me on the line. What do you want? I heard you're successful now. Running a fashion empire, married to Zach Morrison. That's impressive. Her voice had none of its former confidence. She sounded tired, defeated. Christina, I don't have time for games. Why are you calling? I lost my job. The boutique fired me 6 months ago. Turns out corporate found out about my inappropriate relationships with staff members and contractors. They did an investigation. And well, let's just say I'm unhireable. In retail now. I can't find work anywhere. My reputation is destroyed. Karma is real, girl. I didn't say that out loud, but I thought it. And you're calling me because? I don't know. Maybe to apologize? Maybe to ask if you'd be willing to give me a reference? I know I treated you terribly. What I did with Mike, firing you like that, it was wrong. I was wrong. The old Layla might have felt sorry for her, might have tried to help. But the new Layla, the one who'd built herself back up from nothing, understood that some apologies come too late and some bridges should stay burned. Christina, I appreciate the apology, I guess. But I can't help you.
You didn't just make a mistake with me. You
Made a pattern of using your position to manipulate people. You destroyed my life for your own entertainment. And now you're facing consequences for that behavior. Those consequences aren't my responsibility to fix. So that's it? You're just going to let me struggle? The same way you let me struggle when you fired me while I had a newborn at home? The same way you had an affair with my husband and felt no remorse? Yes, Christina. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to let you face the same reality you forced me into. Maybe you'll grow from it the way I did. I hung up before she could respond. Both Mike and Christina reaching out within a month of each other felt like the universe giving me closure. They'd both fallen while I'd risen, and there was a poetic justice in that.
But
More than revenge or satisfaction, what I felt was peace. Their struggles weren't my concern anymore.
my
Concern was the empire I was building, the daughter I was raising, the husband I was loving, and the women I was helping. That was 2 years ago. Today, I'm 34 years old, sitting in my penthouse in downtown Chicago, watching Riley get ready for her first day of kindergarten. She's wearing a dress from our children's line, designed by her stepfather, chattering excitedly about making new friends. Zach is in the kitchen making her favorite breakfast, and I'm taking a moment to just breathe and appreciate how far we've come. Layla's closet has evolved into something I couldn't have imagined in those early days on Shanice's couch. We're now a multi-brand fashion empire with annual revenue exceeding $20 million. We have our main affordable luxury line, the Morrison x Layla designer collaboration, a plus-size collection, a children's line, and most recently, a bridal collection for real women with real budgets. We operate in 15 states with plans to go nationwide next year. My team has grown to over 100 employees, most of them women, many of them single mothers I've personally mentored. Okay, have you ever had moments like that where you sit back and say, wow, we've come so far, overcoming difficult situations and coming this far? If so, share them in the comments and applaud yourselves because you are strong mothers and strong women. Subscribe to the channel and join us. But the numbers, as impressive as they are, aren't what matter most. It's the messages I get daily from women who tell me my story gave them hope. Women who were betrayed, abandoned, told they weren't enough, who looked at what I built and decided to believe in themselves too. That's the real wealth. That's what makes all the struggle worth it. My foundation, Rise Up Sisters, has given out over $2 million in grants to single mothers starting businesses. We've helped 300 women launch their own companies, from bakeries to consulting firms to tech startups. Every woman who receives a grant gets more than just money. She gets mentorship, business training, networking opportunities, and a community of women who understand the struggle because we've lived it. Shanice runs the foundation now, having left teaching to do this work full-time. She says it's the most fulfilling thing she's ever done, watching women transform their lives the way she watched me transform mine. Riley doesn't remember the hard times, and I'm grateful for that. She's growing up knowing she's loved by two parents who adore her, in a home filled with laughter and security. Zach adopted her legally last year, and watching Riley call him daddy for the first time broke me in the best way. She has everything I never had. Stability, opportunity, parents who show up. That's generational change right there. Mike completed a job training program through one of the resources I connected him with. He's working in construction again, living in a modest apartment, slowly rebuilding his life. He reaches out every few months, asking about Riley, and we've started supervised visits. He's not the father she deserves yet, but he's trying to become better, and I respect the effort even if I'll never forget the pain. Riley knows Zach is her real dad, the one who shows up, who reads her bedtime stories, who holds her when she's scared. Biology doesn't make you a parent. Love and commitment do. As for Christina, I heard through mutual contacts that she moved to another state, changed careers entirely.
Last.
I heard she was working in real estate, far from the fashion industry that rejected her. I don't think about her much anymore. She's irrelevant to my story now, just a person who once hurt me but couldn't keep me down. That's where she belongs. In the past, powerless to affect my present. Zach and I are talking about having a baby together. Riley's excited about being a big sister, and the idea of creating new life from a place of love and stability feels like the ultimate redemption. Everything Mike and I couldn't be, Zach and I are. Everything Riley deserved from the beginning, she'll see her sibling receive.
That's
healing. That's victory. Last month, I was invited to speak at a women's conference in front of 5,000 people. I stood on that stage and told my story. The betrayal, the devastation, the nights I didn't think I'd survive, the moments I wanted to give up. But I also told them about the decision to rise, the choice to build, the determination to prove that my past didn't define my future. And when I finished, those 5,000 women stood and applauded, many of them crying because they saw themselves in my story. One woman approached me afterward, probably in her late 20s, tears streaming down her face. "I'm where
you were," she said.
"Pregnant, just got left, no job, no idea how to survive." "Did you really make it? Is this real?" I took her hands and looked her in the eyes. "It's real. And you're going to make it too. You're going to wake up one day and realize the worst thing that ever happened to you was actually the catalyst for your greatest transformation. But you have to choose to rise. Nobody's going to save you. You have to save yourself. And, sister, I promise you, you can." She hugged me and walked away with something in her eyes that wasn't there before. Hope. That's what we do. For each other as women, especially as Black women. We share our stories, we light the path, we prove what's possible. That's why I'm so open about my journey. Someone out there needs to know that betrayal doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning. The irony isn't lost on me that the worst day of my life, finding those texts and losing everything, led to my best life. If Mike hadn't betrayed me, if Christina hadn't fired me, I'd probably still be working retail, playing small, never discovering what I was capable of. They thought they were destroying me. Instead, they freed me to become who I was always meant to be. I look at Riley now, this beautiful, confident little girl, and I'm grateful she'll never know the poverty and struggle of those early years. But one day, when she's older, I'll tell her the full story. I'll tell her about the rain-soaked nights, the empty bank accounts, the fear that gripped my heart. And I'll tell her how her mother chose to fight, chose to build, chose to believe in a future those people couldn't see.
Because she needs to know that
strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up every single time. This morning, as I'm getting ready for another day running my empire, Zach comes up behind me and wraps his arms around my waist. "What are you thinking about?" he asks. "Just how grateful I am," I tell him honestly. "For all of it. Even the pain, because it led me here. You earned this, Layla. Every single bit of it. You took nothing and built everything. That's all you, baby."
He's right.
This life, this success, this peace, I built it. Not because someone gave me a chance or handed me an opportunity, but because I created my own chances and opportunities. I turned thrift store clothes into a fashion empire. I turned Instagram posts into millions of dollars. I turned betrayal into breakthrough. And I did it while being a mother, while healing from trauma, while refusing to let anyone else write my story. To every woman reading this, every sister who's been betrayed, abandoned, told she's not enough. You are enough. You've always been enough. That person who left didn't see your value, but that doesn't mean you don't have it. You are powerful beyond measure. You have dreams inside you that are valid, worthy, achievable.
And
You don't need anyone's permission to chase them.
it won't be easy.
There will be nights you cry yourself to sleep, days you want to quit, moments you doubt. Everything. But baby, keep going.
Keep building. Keep believing.
Because your breakthrough is coming.
Your
Empire is waiting to be built. Your best life is on the other side of this pain. And when you finally rise, when you finally become everything you were meant to be, you'll look back and thank God for every struggle that got you
there.
I'm Layla Morrison, CEO of a multi-million-dollar fashion empire, wife to an incredible man, mother to a beautiful daughter, and living proof that your worst moment can become your greatest catalyst. From being fired and betrayed with a 2-month-old baby to building a life beyond my wildest dreams. From rock bottom to the penthouse. From nothing to everything. And if I can do it, so can you. So get up, dust yourself off, and start building your empire. The world is waiting for you to rise. And trust me, when you do, everyone who doubted you, everyone who counted you out, everyone who thought your story ended with betrayal, they'll have no choice but to watch you shine. Your time is coming, sis. Believe that.